Sony has released their newest State of Play presentation.
And we're going to talk about the top things that you should hear about this show.
Hot take. Shane.
Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Was this better than a Nintendo Direct?
No.
Okay, we got that out of the way.
Nintendo Directs have a lot more personality to them. There's a lot more things going on. And to be honest, I think Sony should probably take a couple of things from the way they do stuff. Because the Sony Directs, the Sony States of Plays are very much like, welcome to State of Play. Today we are going to talk about games.
Right.
Game 1, Game 2, Game 3.
They need more puppets, I agree. They need
puppets.
more heads of companies staring at fruit like bananas.
I would like a spokesperson. I would like to see
Yeah,
someone's face.
Okay, yes, no, jokes aside, that would be great.
It just, to kind of guide you along,
Yeah.
it just makes it far more fun and enjoyable.
That being said, I personally feel like I got a little bit more out of this State of Play than I did the last one. I'm not that invested in VR, but some folks are.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
The last one was very VR heavy.
you know what they could do? It would be really fun. Remember the guy they used to have in the commercials for PlayStation 3 who was the vice president of Sony?
yeah.
Hire him back.
Or someone
Just
like
have him. It would be fun. Everyone would like that.
Okay. Anyway, this presentation was just over 10 minutes,
Yep.
and it was kind of quick, and just a little dribble of games.
Yeah.
But we did get some interesting things worth talking about. There were some things that people were sort of guessing that some people had alluded to
Yes.
coming, but the other things came out of nowhere.
Yep.
Like this first game, Predator Hunting Grounds.
Yeah.
You excited about this?
Look, folks, there have been a lot of Predator games, and some of them have been good, some of them have not been so good.
What?
But not one of them, to my knowledge, has really focused on the concept of multiplayer in the forest.
Asymmetrical multiplayer.
Yeah.
We've been seeing more of these games recently.
Yes, we have.
It kind of sort of started with Evolve. I mean, that was the first really huge one, but we also saw games like Dead Before Daylight
Yep.
and Friday the 13th
Yes.
as well, which is interesting that we're talking about Friday the 13th because the development team that helped with Friday the 13th is doing Predator Hunting Grounds as well. So they have
Yes.
experience with asymmetrical multiplayer games.
Yes, they do. So a lot of people out there have mixed feelings about that game because it didn't do as well as other asymmetrical games that are out there.
True.
However, the Predator, the way that character is designed, the way that it would work, I imagine, in a game would be a lot more interesting because it's essentially a hidden character. Now, there was a game that was released as a mod on Half-Life 2 on Steam all the way back at the very beginning when Half-Life 2 came out. It was one of the very first mods that was ever made. It was called The Hidden, and The Hidden was about one character who had close melee combat, and what the mod developers did was they just basically put a water texture over him, so he was transparent and you could see right through him. So he would be walking around. It was kind of hard to see him at points. That was so fun to play, and I remember everyone having an amazing time with that. So seeing that kind of gameplay come back would be amazing.
That was way back then. Didn't have a Predator license. It was very simple. Now we have Predator, and this seems like it is very much in the vein of the sort of 80s movie,
Yes.
right? Because we have gotten so many Predator and Aliens versus Predator movies, and a lot of those have not done justice for what is Predator. Some people like Predator 2, but Predator 1, I'm sorry, I like Predator 2.
Sure.
But Predator 1 is really where I mean most people have the fondest memories. The trailer that we saw had kind of that 80s, the music, the soundtrack had that 80s vibe to it. They're in the jungle again, which is, the original Predator movie was all about that. Mercenaries in the jungle with this thing. What is this thing hunting them, right?
Yep.
We can be that thing.
Yes.
Or we can be the mercenaries, man.
I think it's going to be fun. I mean, there's ideas of traps and stuff. You talked about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see some of the traps, like Arnie was setting off in the very end of that original movie. Some cool stuff. Maybe cover yourself in mud so you don't get seen by the Predator's sort of heat vision and things like that. I want to see the Predator using his whole sort of tool set as well. The shoulder-mounted cannon, the cool sort of Wolverine-style blades that come out of his wrist and stuff, and beyond. It would be cool if the Predator is on his last sort of leg and he could do the bleep bloop 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 bloop.
I know, right? I want to see stuff like that.
Explosion.
I want to hear some great dialogue. I want some really cool banter to happen between the characters, something that's more in line with Left 4 Dead. But what's so important to me is that these missions don't last 2 seconds. I need an online match like this.
Yeah.
The idea of being afraid of the predator in like a wild setting like that, I want the experience to be a little bit longer so it feels a little bit more tactical and like gives you a little bit more of an ability to really figure out what you have to do and to prep. You know?
Sure. And like in the film, you want to build up that suspense of like having the predator not be able to wipe out people all at once, but pick people off, like in the film. And maybe if there's like some sort of perk given to the predator, I'm kind of imagining that this is the way that they're thinking about it. Like the predator collects the skulls of the dead mercenaries, and that's like how they power up. I don't know if they're going to do like a super predator thing. Like with Evolve, you could, of course, evolve into a bigger and badder monster. Maybe they'll do something like that. But the super predator was something that came into the series a little bit later.
Yeah.
And I say, leave all that stuff out. But if you do want to include Jean-Claude Van Damme in the original Predator suit as DLC, as a skin, I will take it.
For those of you that don't know, the original Predator, the original, before they actually got the one that we all are familiar with now.
That's right.
The original Predator kind of looked more like an alien type of ant type of thing. It was kind of weird, like a reptile or whatever you were saying. And it was a much smaller one because it was Jean-Claude Van Damme. But basically, they didn't go with that, and they completely used a different Predator. And that actor unfortunately passed away. He was much taller and had more of a menacing presence. And that's the one we're all familiar with.
If you could hear Jean-Claude Van Damme like muffled in the suit as he's like destroying the mercenaries, that would be wonderful too.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hot in here. I'd really love that. So yeah, I would love to see other upgrades like getting the chain gun from the first Predator and stuff. But there's other stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Do you want to move on?
Yes, I do.
So there's also a game that we knew was going to be presented within the state of play, a game that people have been anticipating with the likes of the Insanity trilogy being out, the Spyro games being remade. Medieval is a game that a lot of people have been wondering about and talking about, and we did know that it'd be shown off at the state of play. We saw quite a bit of gameplay footage and some CG cutscenes and stuff.
Yes.
What's your opinion?
I gotta be honest, I think the game is looking great. It looks very similar to the original's gameplay style, so it doesn't look like a lot has changed there, but what we're seeing here looks like a good remake that is taking all the original ideas, bringing it forward, and having it just be fun to play again, and that's really all you can hope for.
Yeah, it's kind of doing what like these remake games do well for people that remember them. Like it seems like the game that we remember as a kid.
Yeah.
But if you go and try to replay the original Medieval, it might not be as pretty.
Rough,
yeah. So this, to me, it's like no, this is what Medieval's always looked like. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it seems like it has the same gameplay and stuff. I didn't play a lot of the first or second Medieval games, so for me, a lot of this is going to be new. You have more experience with it.
With the first one, not so much with the second one.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. One thing I've been seeing a lot with a lot of other kind of remakes, especially with Halo, there's this ability to kind of with Master Chief Collection. There's ability to switch between the original game and the newer upgraded graphics, and I don't want to see that with this because when they do that, they kind of limit things out. But I would like, because you didn't really get this with the other ones, I would like to buy this game and then have the original PlayStation 1 game somewhere in there so that you can just play it.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool thing to. I mean, part of the beauty of these remasters or remakes is the comparison, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at all the work that they did. Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to be like down the road if Medieval 2 is going to be coming out. I guess we're going to have to wait and see how this one sells, and then possibly we'll see that as well. Okay, another really huge title.
Kind of a big one.
The one that people, again, there was a title that a lot of people were saying, oh, we're going to see some new footage. And I was like, I'm not too sure. I
didn't think we were going to see any footage.
I thought it was a little bit dubious. But when the State of Play started, we heard a chime.
Yep.
And it was a Final Fantasy chime. A lot of people were saying that the Final Fantasy VII Remake would finally be shown off again.
And then as soon as the chime came on, we saw Monster Hunter World.
Which, I like Monster Hunter. I've dabbled in it a little bit here or there, but you
and I both, we haven't played it that much.
Yeah, we haven't played it enough.
But then we thought, okay, well, we thought maybe there might be some DLC or something. We didn't know why it happened right there. But then, at the very end, it happened.
That's right. So, okay, we're seeing we're seeing more of the gameplay. I'm still like a little bit curious about the battle system that's going on here.
It doesn't look like it's wait and play
right.
anymore. Yeah, it looks like it's more active.
Yeah, well, it was active time battle system was what it used to be, and we did see like a gameplay demo a long time ago when they were first showing off sort of extra footage after its initial reveal. That was more action JRPG,
Yeah.
but this seemed like somewhere between an active battle system and that. So
Well, you notice some of the attacks were actually the attacks from Final Fantasy VII.
we saw cross slash. We saw a limit break. So I really want to see. This is going to be showcased a little bit more in June, which is strange because Sony is not going to be at E3, and this seems like a very Sony title.
So Square Enix is likely going to be showing it off themselves without Sony there, which I guess, I mean, you could do that, but it's a weird thing to do.
It seems weird to have that announcement within a Sony presentation, but in June we'll see more, and hopefully we see more gameplay because that's the one thing I'm most curious about. What I'm not sort of wondering about is whether or not they're going to be doing the visuals justice, because this looks gorgeous.
We were talking a little bit about a movie that came out a while ago called Advent Children, and this is getting on par. I don't know if a lot of this is real time, but it's getting on par with Advent Children's graphics, which is ridiculous to be seeing that in modern video games.
Yeah, we in this trailer we see a lot of what happens with Team Avalanche. It's cool to see them fully rendered in all their beauty, right? And you had pointed this out. This seems like it. We heard that this is going to be episodic in nature. We still don't know exactly what that's going to be like, but this does seem like it's going to be mostly in Midgar.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah. I mean, before you leave the city. For those of you that don't know, not heavy spoilers or anything, but a large portion of the beginning of Final Fantasy VII takes place in a single city before you actually leave to explore the world. And
Midgar is huge. It's a gigantic pizza of different sections of the city, and of course the Shinra building in the very middle. So there's plenty of stuff to do. I'm sure. The developers have said that each episode, it's not like a Telltale game episode. When people say episodic games, sometimes you think of it like that. They're going to feel like full-fledged games. So yeah, if you're going to give me like a 20 to 40 hour experience that's all Midgar, man, no, that's awesome. I really loved seeing all of like just rendering out it looked like the first hour or 2 hours with this new trailer of going into the Shinra, the Mako reactor. The Team Avalanche is in there setting up, the explosives.
A lot of visuals that you recognize.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. We saw a lot of enemies. That's like, okay, I remember that enemy. The boss from the Mako reactors there too, with the scorpion tail, which you shouldn't attack at certain times. Like that gets the the fanboy in me.
And I'm hoping we're seeing a lot of that stuff too. We also got to hear the voice actors a little bit more in this video, which was really important. Now, for me, I'm spoiled. When I think of the voices of Final Fantasy VII characters, usually I hear the voices in my head, but I thought about it a bit more.
Danny DeVito. I got you.
I honestly hear the, this is going to sound weird, I hear the characters from the Machinima series. Because, Anthony, if you're watching, one of our old friends from the show, he's been working on this for quite a while, and when I watch that show, I hear those characters. So now when I'm watching this, I'm like, I know how Barrett's supposed to sound. He doesn't sound like that. So it's just like, it's weird now, but, maybe Square, if you have some time, and you clearly have been working on this for a long time, maybe you don't need to be working on it much longer, but if you want to talk to some folks over at Team 4 Star and maybe work with them on a little outtake version of the game that had all that stuff, that might be pretty cool. I'm just saying,
Yeah. So, okay. Well, they've been working on this for a super long time.
Yeah.
I hope the voice acting's good. And
I hope it's done by this point. It's been a while.
E3 2015 was when they showed it off.
Yeah.
When they first showcased it and people went nuts. So, it's been a very long time. If it is an episodic format, I don't want to have to wait 3 to 4 years for each episode to come out. So I'm hoping that everything's being tackled at the same time. They said it themselves within the trailer that the return draws closer.
Yeah.
So yes, hopefully around E3 we get some sort of a date. That's the most important thing to me at this point, and seeing what the battle system's like.
Yeah. It's been so long. Here's the thing, folks. I am less sympathetic about this, Adam. I think you are more. You actually do understand the struggles they're going to, having been an animator yourself and working somewhat in the industry. For me, it's just like, look, this is a game that already exists. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just you have to recreate the things that were there, and it doesn't seem like they're capable of just doing that. I imagine it's a lot of the creative choices are causing problems as they go.
Just going with the episodic format that they've stated, that's going to be like full-on games. The first, like, when you played through Midgar in the original Final Fantasy, that didn't feel like a full game. It felt big,
yeah,
but it didn't really feel like a full game. So there's going to be a lot more stuff, I'd imagine, put into this. They could have went about it not reinventing the wheel, but it very much, to me, feels like they are.
Yeah,
there's a heck of a lot of work going into this. Could it have been released earlier? I'm sure, but we also heard about the developers having struggles. There's been a bit of a revolving team, I guess, and people coming from the Kingdom Hearts series and jumping back and forth. So yeah, that has a lot to do with what's happening.
You know, one thing that is I guess something to take into consideration. We know that Midgar is a very big city, and typically the more recent Final Fantasy games, especially 15, I guess, this would be the most recent one to talk about. Also, it kind of looks like the same engine that they used for that game, which I'm okay with because, yeah, it's a pretty engine. When I say that those games were designed to be big and small at the same time, what I mean is there's a lot of field, there's a lot of dirt roads, there's a lot of places that are just empty and there's nothing actually there, and there's packets of things that you can do. With Final Fantasy VII, you might have that same thing, but then you have to design that entire cityscape.
Right.
And you have to recreate all those classic scenes that people want to see. And if they're trying to recreate every single detail, I believe there's a lot more going into that than what people could consider.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is.
That's a good point, because yeah, with a game like Final Fantasy 15, there's no expectations.
Yeah.
With a game like Final Fantasy 7, there's huge expectations. In 1997, remember, this was like, we're getting a feature film on home consoles. That's how this was advertised back in the day. So they have to live up to that.
And you know, the way I think about it too is like, okay, in the original Final Fantasy VII, when you leave that first city, you can take your airship, whatever the heck. You can go around the world. You can walk on the world.
Well, you find a chocobo,
yes.
Shane.
Yes.
And then you go to town.
Okay. Yeah, no, running around on the chocobo. When you walk around on that chocobo, there's a lot of just empty fields and stuff and random battle sequences. If they don't have, like, are they going to have random battle sequences in the same way? Are they literally taking the Final Fantasy 15 engine, that design concept and philosophy,
and battle engine, maybe, yeah.
Which, by the way, let me just say this: if that's what it is, I don't think I'll be too upset, because I think the story will be way better than what you get with Final Fantasy 15.
The biggest gripes that people had with 15 was the story. I thought that the battle system was okay, but I would love to see them try something new here. I mean, they've had enough time as far as I'm concerned.
And look, I don't know how much of an encompassing story they want to do here, but there's also Crisis Core, right? Yeah. There's also there's like other Final Fantasy 7
Dirge
games.
of the Cerberus.
Yes.
That's going to be one of the episodes, Shane.
The one where you're a vampire. So, I'm just saying, there's all that world. They can add those pieces to the game so that you don't have to run away. See, with Final Fantasy 15, there was the movie that existed that you kind of had to watch before you played the game.
That was silly.
There was a lot of dumb choices there. Yeah. But Final Fantasy 7, they could just encompass everything that they want, and then that narrative and story can be there in a more full package that can kind of surpass the original Final Fantasy 7, which might be a thing to do.
Yeah, can they though? Can they? So that's pretty
a tall order.
That wraps up the three sort of big titles that we wanted to talk about. Yes, there was also Monster Hunter World. We saw River Bond as well, which was a sort of voxel 3D Game Heroes love letter title that had some other indie games, which looked interesting. We had Away with a sugar glider, and you learned what a sugar glider is today because of that.
Was,
and then we also, the PlayStation is also going to have a brushed metal Days of Play Slim console as well.
Love to take a look at that in person, but those things are usually limited run. So.
Other than that, would you say this was better or worse than their first, the other State of Play that we saw? Did you enjoy this one more?
Better than the last one for the average consumer, considering that only 2 million of the users out there actually own PlayStation VR, and therefore that direct wasn't actually going to apply to them. This one showed off Final Fantasy VII. If all it did was just that, it would have been good enough for most people.
Yeah.
I believe that in the future, what they need to do is just work a little bit and show some more interesting features features and share some more ideas. Don't be afraid to talk about sales that are happening with games and how people are going to save things. And also, it would be cool if, like, once in a while, like when one of these episodes happen, if you really want to engage people, tell them there's going to be a game given away for free, and we're going to tell you what that game is somewhere in there. Just get more stuff happening so that it feels more like a cohesive thing that people want to tune in and enjoy.
I agree with everything you said, and I would even suggest have one of the developers in front of the camera just for a second, just to talk about the game before it's shown off or something, just to give a little bit more heart to the presentation as a whole, because that was a big issue.
If the director of Final Fantasy VII, the new one, was there just to go, we've been working on this very hard. We're really excited to show you this, and
the last 3 years we've been reformulating Dirge of the Cerberus, and that's what's been holding back the development of this game.
We've worked long and hard to make a vampire game. Let me tell you, that was not easy. We were going to do Red 17 originally, but no, that game just, we're calling it away.
Okay. So that was the state of play. Let us know what you guys think. Did you see it? Did you love it? Did you think it was better than the first one?
Yeah. Or did you feel that state of plays are just not working for you? Let us know.